What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to White Sox Daily. We got a little bit more White Sox news as we continue to try to battle our way through this long off season. Spring training now, we're officially at least into 2026, just a few months away. Reports for training camp just 2 months away, and of course the World Baseball Classic coming this March and April. So baseball not too far off on the horizon at this time. But the White Sox made a couple of more on the minor side of the moves here, and we'll jump right into it, including right off the bat another catcher to the Chicago White Sox, this time snagging a former first-round pick of the Colorado Rockies. Sniped him from the New York Mets. Didn't spend a great deal of time with the Mets. In fact, I think it was just a couple of days even, as they had to make room from their 40-man roster, tried to send him down to AAA. White Sox managed to sign him off of waivers. We'll see how long he lasts with Chicago. Of course, this offseason waiver system can be a bit of musical chairs from time to time. But Drew Romo, the latest Chicago White Sox signing, yet another catcher, which is an interesting position to target here. They ended up waiving Drew Cowlis to make room for Drew Romo on the 40-man roster. But of course, if they choose to send him down, remove him from the 40-man protected roster at any point, he will be subject to waivers once again. And this whole system could just continue to spiral, and who knows what team is going to end up on by the end of it. But for right now, the Chicago White Sox have signed the 24-year-old catcher, the former number 9 overall prospect of the Colorado Rockies. A guy that has put together some decent numbers in the minors, had a couple of seasons where he was batting over 300, mostly been in the mid-200s to this point in the minor league farm system for Colorado, has played 19 major league games to this point, hasn't been particularly spectacular, batting just 151 to this point in the major league system, or in the major league, sorry, for Colorado. No home runs, no extra base hits to this point. So nothing to really spark a great deal of enthusiasm about the signing as far as what he's done in the major leagues. But he's a guy with several mid-20s home run seasons in the minor league system. Like we talked about, a lot of, mid-200s, a couple of even 300 batting average seasons in the minor leagues, and still young, 24 years old. The biggest thing here is, of course, Edgar Quero and Kyle Teel already here for the Chicago White Sox. Catcher kind of being their best position, their biggest logjam at the moment, trying to work his way to the majors. Perhaps Drew Romo becomes a trade piece down the line if he continues to put together further minor league quality seasons and he stays with Chicago through this entire year. Could be someone that you can send to another roster, maybe even back to the Mets, who are looking for something more stable at the catcher position at this time, trying to work his way onto a spring training 40-man roster. But yeah, for right now, he ends up poached to the Chicago White Sox from the New York Mets, and we'll have to see how they decide to go about Drew Romo's development in their minor league system. And speaking of minor league systems and the happenings going on there, we just learned one of the contract clauses in Murakami's 3-year deal, 2-year official deal with, of course, a 3rd-year option for the team. Munetaka Murakami has in his contract no minor league send-downs without his express permission, which is certainly interesting verbiage to have added to what is essentially a rookie player coming over to Major League Baseball. That is fairly uncommon as far as a special clause to add to a first-year Major League player's contract, because it kind of ties your hands just a little bit as the Major League roster that signs Murakami, and really ends up putting the White Sox in a position where you really have to bet on him not being any kind of bust whatsoever. It kind of shows to an extent as well that they have a great deal of faith in Murakami to show up ready to play Major League ball, and that they are going to be willing to be patient if he is not able to hit the highs that some fans are hopeful for right off the bat. They're going to basically be patient whether they like to or not at this point, and I think that's a good sign for the White Sox as to what they see from Murakami in his immediate future. But yeah, if it doesn't work out, it certainly puts them in an interesting position where you're not going to be able to send him down to get him minor league at bats. You're not going to be able to send him down just to, get him off the major league roster if he's really disappointing. You're going to have to weather the storm with him if things don't start to click right off the bat. And I think the hope here is that that's just not going to come up, that Murakami's going to show up on the south side. He's going to bring that power that he had in Japan when he was a member of the Swallows, that he's going to show up here and put together quality at bats. And you're just not going to have to worry about it. That would be the ideal scenario here, but it's a scenario that now we will have to monitor as we've discovered that clause in the contract. Murakami will not be spending any stints in the minor leagues for the Chicago White Sox unless he personally agrees to it. So that will certainly be an interesting clause for all of us to monitor going forward with Chicago. Also down in the minor league system with Chicago, an interesting article posted by Baseball America listed some of the big sleeper breakout stars for 2026 as far as minor league system products across Major League Baseball. And here is one that many people might not have even heard of to this point, but Matthew Botton, listed as the Chicago White Sox shortstop to watch. An 11th round pick last season. I think a lot of people last year got eyes on the Chicago White Sox top two picks, Billy Carlson, obviously an infielder that a lot of people have high hopes for going forward. Jaden Foskey, another guy that Chicago White Sox fans were paying attention to early on as far as guys to keep an eye on from last year's draft class. But Baseball America decided to go a little bit deeper into the 11th round pick, Matthew Botton, decided not to play for Texas A&M and signed his contract right off the bat with the Chicago White Sox. He's expected to report to Kannapolis this coming season. 20 years old despite being drafted right out of high school, kind of an older high school graduate, which is kind of what made him slip a little bit in the draft. A guy that was a really sensational high school track star and who showcases tremendous base stealing ability, tremendous speed, but that they're hoping to kind of refine his hitting. He's had some issues with swing and miss. They're looking to shorten up his swing a bit, hoping to get him into a bit more contact to this point. And if he can manage to get all that, he's a guy with tremendous tools. It's just going to be a matter of getting everything together, making sure that you can create the ideal player out of this wet clay that is his athletic ability and could be something to monitor for the Chicago White Sox going forward. And finally, we'll wrap things up for the week here in Chicago White Sox news with some speculation about how the Chicago White Sox are going to go about filling that final outfielder spot moving forward. And could Austin Hayes be the perfect fit as far as a guy that could be within their budget, he's a little bit higher than what, when people talk about the White Sox budget, you're talking about dumpster diving just a bit. Austin Hayes, maybe that middle tier, not one of those top-end superstar guys, not a Kyle Tucker, not in that general range, but a guy that could be more in the medium tier, 30 years old, several 20 home run seasons, usually bats around 250, a guy that gets on base, a guy that plays solid defense, a very good, not spectacular, but good outfield option to put out there. Spent a majority of his career in Baltimore, spent just this last season with Cincinnati, also spent a little bit of time in Philadelphia as well. But yeah, a guy that I think could be in that general echelon of people that could come in, very similar statistically most seasons to what Andrew Benintendi gave us last season. And if he comes in, shows up, plays exactly like that, I think you've got two really nice outfielders to either side of Luis Robert. And suddenly the Chicago White Sox, it's not going to be a, massive franchise alterer as far as signings, but someone that could come in and really change the trajectory of perhaps this coming season. Probably puts you into that general tier of maybe you're competing for the division or a wild card spot. And you give White Sox fans a little bit of hope. So let us know how you'd feel about potentially pursuing Austin Hayes. Is it going to be worth the effort, worth the money, worth the signing to bring a guy like that in here? Let us know in the comments section below. And until next time, I've been Aaron Feely with White Sox Daily.